Hello class, let's talk about collusion and competition. In front of us, we have a demand schedule for lysine. Let's assume that there are only two producers of this product, meaning we have a duopoly, and that these firms only have to worry about fixed costs, meaning the marginal cost is equal to zero. The question becomes, how much production will we see in this market? If the two firms collude, the only thing we have to worry about is calculating our marginal revenue. Let's set up a new column next to total revenue that illustrates marginal revenue. For this example, the quantities are increasing by 10. So to calculate marginal revenue, we have to take the difference in total revenue divided by the difference in quantity. For marginal revenue, we see the following numbers. By using our marginal revenue equals marginal cost, profit maximizing identity, we can see that the profit maximizing quantity in this market, if the firms collude, is 60, and that at a quantity of 60, the price of lysine per pound will be 6. At 60, it is the last time that marginal revenue is in the positives. Notice that anything in terms of production after 60, we have a negative marginal revenue, which is less than our marginal cost, shown here. At this quantity and price, revenues are maximized, as seen here. Notice that no other quantity gives a higher level of revenue than 60 million pounds of lysine. So how will these two firms decide who gets to produce how much? After all, the only thing that we know is that in order to maximize revenue in the market, 60 million pounds should be produced. The duopoly can then split this production between both of the firms. A possibility might be that they fairly distribute the production between the two companies, meaning that each firm will produce 30 million pounds each. So we could have the following. Since the production is being split equally, you could expect the same numbers for firm B. This is what collusion might look like. Two firms decide to act as a monopoly, split the market between each other, and maximize the total revenue that can be had by all companies involved. This is what we call cooperative behavior. This is what firms want to achieve when they form cartels. They collude in order to set a quantity that maximizes revenues for everybody. There is one problem though. Firm A and Firm B are still competitors, and they do have incentives to renege or cheat on this agreement. Let's say that Firm A decides that they don't want to follow this agreement anymore, meaning they don't just want to produce 30 million pounds of lysine. They want to take their own strategy and maximize their own profits or revenues without thinking about what's going to happen to the market or specifically to firm B. In this case, firm A might decide to produce 40 million pounds. Now firm B is still thinking that firm A is holding their end of the bargain. So firm B is still producing 30 million pounds. Let's take a look at what the total quantity in this market is now. 40 plus 30 is 70. Let's go back to our table to figure out what the new price will be if the production level is 70 million pounds. As we discussed, firm A has pushed production of lysine to 70 million pounds, meaning the price of lysine will drop to $5. This is something we have to account for. So let's redo our calculations for each of the firms. Remember that once the quantity is set, the price applies to all the firms in this market. Let's see what the revenues for firm A look like. Under this new strategy, firm A will now have $200 million worth of revenue, while firm B, which got stuck at 30 million pounds of production, now has $150 million in revenues. This is where we can see the incentive to cheat on an agreement. If a firm cheats, it will increase its total revenues. Remember, firms are still competing with each other, so there is this risk. This is what we call non-cooperative behavior, and it leads us to something very interesting. Since firm A has cheated on a previous agreement, it means that firm B will also cheat and increase production as well. But remember that as production increases, my prices decrease. This will cause a scenario for both firms that is not wanted, because they will see both of their revenues decrease. As we go on to game theory, we will see how, given this market structure and these incentives, firms can avoid this type of behavior, which we call tit for tat. If you cheat on an agreement, that means that I will cheat on the agreement, and we'll end up in a position that is not mutually beneficial, that will not maximize both our profits or revenues.